name is Gavin Evans, and this is my review of Forgetting Sarah Marshall. And this will be a spoiler-filled review, so if you haven't seen it, go and watch it, then come back and watch my review because I will be going in depth. But let's be honest, even if you haven't seen this movie, you know how it's going to end. But anyways, this is a movie that I remember just absolutely loving. Like, I remember this movie being one of the funniest movies I've ever seen. And I just rewatched it for the very first time. And I have to say, this movie's a lot more cringier than I remember. Like, you're watching this main character do lots of stupid things throughout. He talks too much, and he's fully aware of it, and he's going on and on about his life issues, and you know how certain things look to other people. Like, he goes to this hotel in Hawaii, and his ex-girlfriend is there, and you can just tell that she thinks that he followed her there, but he didn't. So there's just this cringy atmosphere to it throughout, but if I'm being honest, I found it a little bit refreshing. Like, there's an aspect of this movie that I just found to be brutally honest. And if I'm being honest, there are moments of this movie that I saw myself in a negative way. You know, it just reminds you of past mistakes that you've made. And I just found the honesty of this movie to be absolutely refreshing. But just because this movie is cringy doesn't mean it's any less funny, because I still found this movie to be hilarious. Like, there were some moments that I was just laughing hysterically at. And I feel like this movie is really well balanced between the cringy elements and the humorous aspects of this movie. And the main character's growth is really well handled. You do buy each and every character beat of his. From being the guy who talks too much, to just being a punching bag, to gaining confidence throughout the movie and pursuing his life goals. I do find it inspiring to be some way, and Jason Segel plays this character so absolutely perfectly. I think Jason Segel's a very underrated comedic actor, and I wish we saw him in more movies nowadays, because he's a really fantastic actor, and he seems like a genuinely good guy in real life, and I do like his presence here. Like, I think he brings something different to this movie, and I just think he's really fantastic here. And the two main female characters are also well defined. Sarah Marshall and how he obsesses over her in the beginning of this movie, but then throughout we start to see him discover her true character, and how she belittles him, and how she makes him feel small, and how she's just a really mean and nasty person, and how he comes to terms with that. I really liked that element of the movie. I also loved how at the end of the movie, when he rejects her, that's the last time we see her. She has solved her purpose in his life, and now she's gone. We don't see her again except through the TV, and that's the only time he'll ever see her again. So I thought that was a character who was really well handled. But then we also got Rachel, who's just played perfectly by Mila Kunis, and she's just this kind person. She listens to him. It's not all about her. And she also encourages him to follow his dreams. And the two are just complete opposites, Rachel and Sarah Marshall. And you can just see how Rachel's actually much better for him than Sarah ever could be. And I think this is actually paralleled perfectly between the very beginning of this movie and the very end. The opening scene has Peter, he just took a shower, he's in his towel, and then Sarah comes into his living room and she breaks up with him. And he drops the towel and he's just standing there, fully naked. And you just can't help but laugh. Like, he's just so vulnerable in this moment, and it's so over the top. And even when he's like, I need a moment, and he faces away, and he starts crying, and he hunches over, and his entire ass is just showing. Like, it's so humiliating, and you can't help but laugh at him. And just the way that she was reacting to him being fully naked, it was belittling. She made him feel so small and vulnerable in that moment. And that moment is paralleled perfectly with the very end of this movie, where Peter's getting dressed after his play, and then Rachel comes into the room, and she sees him completely naked, and instead of the audience laughing at him, she's laughing at him, and then she goes up to him and says how much she misses him and gives him a kiss. She doesn't belittle him, she doesn't make him feel humiliated, he doesn't make him feel vulnerable, she just embraces him. How each of these two characters treated Peter is showcased perfectly in the very opening of this movie and the very ending. And I just think that aspect is actually really brilliant. And this movie just ends on a very heartwarming note that I just found to be incredibly sweet. I really do love the ending of this movie. Like I mentioned earlier, Jason Segel is really fantastic in this movie. Mila Kunis is really great. Christian Bale also does a perfect job playing this kind of character. She's really great as Sarah Marshall. I love the addition of Russell Brand as Ardius Snow. Just the way he plays this character, I just found to be absolute perfect. Like, he's just the scummiest of guys, but you also understand the appeal. And the way that his character solves the story, I just thought was handled perfectly. But even the other supporting cast I found to be absolutely fantastic. Paul Rudd absolutely cracks me up in this movie. He is so damn perfect. Like, just some of the lines. Like, he looks at that one girl with the red hair and he's just like, oh, I wonder if the carpet matches her pubes. Like, it's so... Oh, they're about to go surfing and he starts singing, the weather outside is weather. Like, he's so dumb, but he just plays it so perfectly. I love him in this movie. And Jonah Hill is also fantastic in this movie. Just this guy obsessing over this rock star and just constantly starstruck, I believe is a proper term. And I just found him to be hilarious in this movie. Or there's one scene where Peter's eating at this dinner and he's about to take his plate and Peter's like, oh, I'm not done yet. And he's just like, okay, well, I'll go fuck myself then. I love Jonah Hill in this movie as well. My only real negatives with this movie is that it is built on this huge coincidence of Peter running into his ex-girlfriend in Hawaii. Like, that is a pretty big coincidence, and he's just like, oh, I know this is a long shot, but do you have any rooms available? And they're like, no, we don't, but we'll give you this super nice room for free. I know, it's very nitpicky, but couldn't his friend just give him money for the hotel instead of that? Because it does take you out of it just a little bit. Like, things are going a bit too perfect for him on this vacation. My only other negative is there's just a few moments where Peter's a bit too whiny to the point where you're just like, oh, okay, I'm getting heavily annoyed by this character. And like, the cringe elements are completely intentional, but there is a few moments where they take it a bit too far. And also him cheating on Rachel with Sarah Marshall for that one scene, even though he doesn't fully do it, it is a pretty shitty thing for him to do. But that all said, I do really love this movie. I do love the handling of Peter's character and his growth throughout. I do think this movie's romantic, it's charming, it's hilarious, it's sweet. It's cringy, yes, but I actually like the use of it throughout. The entire cast is just fantastic. I think this movie has some very smart writing. I just absolutely love it. So I'm gonna go ahead and give Forgetting Sarah Marshall an 8.5 out of 10. And I just love the message this movie has, that if you're ever going through a bad breakup, all you need is to get Mila Kunis to fall in love with you in order to get over it. So, very strong message. But anyways, what did you think about Forgetting Sarah Marshall? Let me know in the comments down below. Make sure you like, make sure you comment, make sure you subscribe. Stay tuned for some more videos soon, and Gavin out.